He heard it. Yul Ji-woo froze in the hallway of his Seoul penthouse, one hand gripping the door frame, the other pressed against his chest. From the kitchen came a sound he hadn't heard in 3 months, a sound he'd given up hoping for. His son's voice, not crying, not screaming, just talking. Soft words mixed with humming and the sizzle of something cooking. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, because for 3 months, 6-year-old Min-jun had been completely silent. 6 months ago, Ji-woo lost his wife. Hye-jin died in a car crash on the Gangnam Expressway. No warning, just gone. Their son Min-jun was in the back seat. He survived. She didn't. And something inside the boy shattered that night. At first, Min-jun talked about it, asked where Oma was, when she was coming home, why Appa cried at night when he thought nobody could hear. The questions came every day, every hour, every moment the boy was awake. Where is she? When is she coming back? Did I do something wrong? Is she mad at me? Questions that had no good answers. Questions that broke Ji-woo's heart every time. Then, 3 months ago, the questions stopped. Min-jun just went silent. Not gradually, not slowly. One morning he woke up and the voice was gone, like someone had flipped a switch inside him. He'd open his mouth sometimes, his lips would move, but no sound came out. Like his grief had stolen his ability to speak, like the words had died with his mother. He'd wake up, get dressed, go through the motions of living, but his voice was gone, buried somewhere deep where even he couldn't find it anymore. Ji-woo would sit with him for hours, begging him to say anything, one word, one sound. Please, Min-jun, please talk to Appa. But the boy would just stare with eyes that held too much pain for someone so small. Before we continue, understand something. Maybe someone you love has gone silent. Maybe you've tried everything and nothing's worked. Maybe you're wondering if healing is even possible. This story is for you. Because sometimes God doesn't send help from the places we expect. Sometimes He sends a stranger who understands pain we've never spoken aloud. Sometimes healing doesn't come from experts or money. It comes from someone brave enough to sit in silence with you. Subscribe and stay with me. Hit that notification bell, because Min-jun's journey is just beginning. Ji-woo hired everyone, child psychologists from Seoul National Hospital, the best in the country, specialists who'd helped hundreds of traumatized children find their voices again, speech therapists who'd worked miracles with selective mutism, trauma counselors who flew in from Europe and America, people who'd spent entire careers helping children speak again. None of them could reach him. Min-jun would sit in therapy sessions, staring at nothing, while experts tried technique after technique. Play therapy with toys and dolls, art therapy with colors and paper, music therapy with instruments and songs, sand therapy, animal therapy, every approach known to modern medicine, every method backed by research and success stories. Nothing worked. The boy who used to sing Korean nursery rhymes with his mother, who'd chattered non-stop about everything he saw, who'd filled their home with questions and laughter and life, that boy was gone, replaced by a ghost who looked like his son, but wouldn't speak, wouldn't connect, wouldn't let anyone pass the walls he'd built. Mrs. Park, the housekeeper who'd been with the family for 20 years, cried every time she saw Min-jun fade a little more. She'd known him since birth, had watched him grow from a babbling infant to a curious toddler, to a bright, talkative child, and now she watched him disappear into silence. "It's like he's drowning," she told Ji-woo one evening, "and we're all standing on the shore watching him, unable to reach him, unable to save him." Ji-woo was a billionaire, CEO of one of Korea's largest tech companies. He could buy anything in the world, could solve any problem with money or connections or sheer force of will. But he couldn't buy back his son's voice, couldn't fix this with a check or a phone call or a business deal. For the first time in his life, his wealth meant nothing. His power meant nothing. His son was drowning and he was helpless. The guilt consumed him. He'd been at work when the accident happened, a board meeting that ran late. Hye-jin had been picking up Min-jun from school, a route she drove every day, safe, routine, normal, until a truck ran a red light on the expressway, until metal met metal, until his wife died and his son survived, and everything changed. Ji-woo couldn't stop thinking, if I'd just left work early, if I'd picked him up instead, if I'd been there, maybe Hye-jin would still be alive, maybe Min-jun wouldn't be broken, maybe their family wouldn't be shattered beyond repair. He threw himself into work even harder after Min-jun went silent, spent 18-hour days at the office, came home when his son was asleep, left before he woke up, told himself it was to provide, to maintain stability, to keep the company running. But the truth was simpler and more painful. He couldn't bear to look at his silent son, couldn't bear to see his own failure reflected in those empty eyes, couldn't bear to sit in the grief that filled every room of their home. Mrs. Park watched Ji-woo destroy himself, watched father and son both drowning in separate oceans of pain, unable to reach each other, unable to bridge the distance that trauma had created. She'd seen this before, in her own family. Loss that created walls between people who loved each other. Grief that isolated instead of united. She knew what they needed. Not more experts, not more therapy, not more money thrown at an unfixable problem. They needed someone who understood, someone who'd walked this road, someone who knew the language of loss that had no words. That's when she called the agency, asked for someone specific, someone with experience, not experience with children or therapy or education, experience with grief, real grief, the kind that steals your voice and makes you want to disappear. The agency understood. They had someone, a young woman from Nigeria, been in Korea for 2 years, excellent references, hard-working, quiet, and most importantly, she'd lost her mother young, too. She'd been through this. She'd survived it. She'd found her voice again. Her name was Chimamanda Chukwuma. She went by Amanda. Then one Tuesday morning, Amanda arrived at the house. She was young, mid-20s, Nigerian, quiet in a way that felt comfortable, not shy. She wore a simple dress and carried a small bag. Everything she owned fit in that bag. Mrs. Park met her at the door, took her through the penthouse, showed her the kitchen, the cleaning supplies, the schedule. And then they stopped outside Min-jun's room at the end of the hall. Mrs. Park's voice dropped to a whisper. He doesn't come out much anymore, just sits in there, looking at photos of his mother. Sometimes I hear him crying at night, but when I go in, he stops, pretends to be asleep. Like he's ashamed of his grief, like he thinks he needs to be strong. But he's 6 years old. He shouldn't have to be strong. He should be allowed to break. Amanda nodded slowly. She understood that shame, that guilt. When her mother died, she'd felt it too. The pressure to be okay, to move on, to stop burdening everyone with her pain. So she'd stopped speaking. For 6 months, just went silent. Let the grief consume her because expressing it felt like too much, like she was asking for too much, like she was being too much. Her grandmother had saved her, not with words or therapy or forcing her to talk, just with presence, with patience, with cooking Nigerian food and singing Igbo lullabies and sitting in silence when silence was all Amanda could offer.
Her grandmother had understood that grief wasn't something to fix or overcome quickly. It was something to carry, something to honor, something to move through slowly, carefully, one day at a time. And eventually, after 6 months of silence, Amanda had spoken again. Not because she was fixed, but because she felt safe enough to try. That first week, Amanda didn't try to reach Min-jun, didn't force interaction, didn't push for progress. She just existed in the space around him, cooked meals that smelled different from anything the penthouse had seen before. Palm oil and spices and flavors that told stories of home, of Lagos, of her grandmother's kitchen where healing had happened. She hummed while she worked. Igbo lullabies her grandmother had sung, songs about loss and hope and finding your way home even when the path was dark. Min-jun would appear sometimes, in doorways, around corners, watching her with eyes that held questions he couldn't ask. She never approached him, never tried to make him engage, never put pressure on his silence. Just let him observe. Let him be curious. Let him decide when he was ready, if he was ready. On day 3, she made jollof rice. The smell filled the entire penthouse. Rich tomato, palm oil, spices that Seoul had never encountered. Sweet and savory and completely foreign. Min-jun appeared in the kitchen doorway, watching, his nose twitching, his eyes following her movements. Amanda kept cooking, kept humming, pretended not to notice him. She knew from experience that direct attention could feel like pressure, like expectation, like demand. And traumatized children needed space, needed the freedom to engage or not engage without consequence. She set a small plate on the counter, one piece of fried plantain, golden, sweet-smelling, caramelized at the edges. Then she walked away, didn't watch, didn't wait, just gave him the choice, the freedom, the space to decide. 20 minutes later, Mrs. Park found the plate empty. The boy who'd barely eaten in weeks had taken the food, had tried something new, had let himself be curious instead of closed off. Day 5 brought a shift. Amanda was making egusi soup, melon seeds ground into paste, palm oil, stockfish, spinach. The kind of soup that her grandmother had made every Sunday, the kind that tasted like comfort and safety and home. She was singing quietly, an Igbo lullaby about a child who got lost in the forest and found their way home by following the sound of their mother's voice. A song about loss and finding and never being truly alone. She felt eyes on her, turned slightly. Min-jun stood in the doorway, closer than he'd ever been before. His small hands gripped the doorframe, his eyes locked on the pot, on her hands, on the wooden spoon stirring slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. She kept singing, kept stirring. After a long moment, she gestured to the counter. Another wooden spoon sat there, smaller, child-sized. She didn't speak, just gestured, waited.
Min-jun looked at the spoon, looked at her. His eyes asked questions his voice couldn't. Is it okay? Am I allowed? Will you be angry if I try? Amanda just smiled, kept gesturing, kept waiting. And slowly, so slowly, Min-jun walked into the kitchen. His feet made small sounds on the marble floor. He picked up the spoon, held it like it might break, like he might break. Then he stood beside her at the stove. Amanda moved the pot slightly toward him, let him stir. His small hands gripped the spoon tight, too tight, like he was holding on for dear life. She put her hand over his, gentle, showing him how to relax, how to let the spoon move through the soup instead of fighting it, how to trust the process. He looked up at her. His eyes filled with tears,
But he kept stirring, kept trying, kept letting himself be present in this moment instead of lost in the past. They cooked together in silence. No words needed. Just the sound of soup bubbling, Amanda humming, Min-jun's breathing gradually slowing, calming, his shoulders dropping from where they'd been hunched up near his ears, his grip on the spoon loosening, his face relaxing into something that almost looked like peace. Ji-woo came home that evening to find them still in the kitchen. His son, his silent son, standing at the stove with the stranger, stirring soup, and something on his face that Ji-woo hadn't seen in 6 months. Engagement, presence, life. Ji-woo stood in the hallway watching, his throat tight, his eyes burning, his chest aching with something between grief and hope. Mrs. Park appeared beside him, whispered, "She's reaching him. I don't know how, but she's reaching him." Ji-woo nodded, unable to speak himself, because watching his son engage with anything, anyone, after 3 months of nothing, was almost too much to bear, almost too much to hope for. He'd tried so hard, hired so many people, spent so much money, and this woman, this stranger, this maid from Nigeria, had done in 5 days what experts couldn't do in 3 months. She'd given his son a reason to try again. That night, Ji-woo couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about his son, about this woman, about what it meant that Min-jun responded to her when he wouldn't respond to anyone else. Was it her gentleness? Her patience? The fact that she didn't push? Or was it something deeper? Something about shared experience, about understanding that came from walking the same dark road? He got up, walked quietly through the penthouse, found Mrs. Park in the kitchen making tea. She wasn't surprised to see him. Insomnia was a common visitor in this house. They sat together in the dark. The city lights of Seoul spread out below them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Mrs. Park poured tea, waited. She knew Ji-woo would speak when he was ready. "Tell me about her," he finally said. "About Amanda." Mrs. Park smiled softly. Her mother died when she was 7. Sudden illness. One day healthy, next day gone. Just like that. Amanda stopped speaking afterward for 6 months. Her grandmother raised her in Lagos. The woman didn't force her to talk, didn't send her to doctors or therapists, just loved her, fed her, sang to her, waited. And eventually, Amanda found her voice again. Ji-woo absorbed this, so she knows. She knows what Min-jun is feeling. Mrs. Park nodded. She knows what it's like when grief steals your voice. When the pain is so big you can't find words for it. When silence feels safer than speaking, because speaking makes it real, makes it permanent, makes you have to accept that they're really gone. "How did you find her?" Ji-woo asked. Mrs. Park looked at him. "I called every agency in Seoul, asked for someone specific, someone who'd lost a parent young, someone who'd been through trauma, someone who understood that healing isn't about fixing or forcing or pushing. It's about patience and presence and giving someone safe space to feel everything they need to feel." The agency had Amanda. She'd been working other houses, but when they told her about Min-jun, she said yes immediately, said she knew she could help, or at least try. Ji-woo felt something crack in his chest. This woman, this stranger, she'd come here knowing she might fail, knowing Min-jun might never speak again. But she came anyway. Because she understood. Because she'd been that silent child once. Because she knew what it felt like to need someone who got it. Who didn't try to fix it. Who just sat with you in the dark. Week 2 brought the first real obstacle. Ji-woo's mother arrived unannounced. Madame Yul Se-yeon. She was elegant in the way wealthy Korean women often were. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect clothes, perfect control over every aspect of her life and everyone in it. She'd been in Europe when Hye-jin died, had come back for the funeral, but left again quickly. Grief made her uncomfortable. Emotion made her uncomfortable. She preferred things neat, contained, manageable.
When she walked into the penthouse that Tuesday morning, she found Min-jun in the kitchen with Amanda. They were making jollof rice together. Min-jun was carefully measuring ingredients. His tongue stuck out slightly in concentration. Amanda was guiding him with gentle touches and quiet Igbo words he was starting to understand. Food words, cooking words, words that felt safe because they weren't connected to loss or pain or the accident. Se-yeon's face hardened immediately. "What is this?" Her voice cut through the kitchen like a knife through silk, sharp, cold, precise. Ji-woo appeared from his home office. "Mother, I didn't know you were coming." Se-yeon ignored him. Her eyes were locked on Amanda. "You're the new maid?" Amanda straightened, bowed slightly, respectful but not servile. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Chiamanda Chukuma." Se-yeon's lip curled. "Chiamanda? What kind of name is that? African?" Amanda kept her face neutral. "Yes, ma'am. I'm from Nigeria." Se-yeon looked at the jollof rice like it was something offensive, something dirty. "This is inappropriate. My grandson needs Korean traditions, Korean food, Korean culture, not this foreign nonsense. He needs to remember who he is, where he comes from." Ji-woo stepped forward. "Mother, please. She's helping him. Can't you see? He's engaging again, for the first time in months." Se-yeon turned to her son. Her eyes flashed. "Engaging? He's playing with food like some common child. What he needs is discipline, structure, proper Korean therapy with proper Korean doctors, not cooking lessons from some African maid who probably doesn't even have proper training." The words hit Amanda like physical blows, but she kept her spine straight, kept her face calm. She'd experienced this before, in other houses, with other employers. The casual racism, the dismissive comments, the assumption that because she was African, because she was a maid, she was less than. She'd learned not to react, not to show pain, because showing pain gave people power. But Min-jun hadn't learned that yet. He'd gone completely still beside Amanda, his hands frozen on the measuring cup, his eyes wide, watching the adults argue about him like he wasn't there, like he couldn't hear, like his feelings didn't matter. Just like before. Just like after the accident when adults whispered around him, made decisions for him, talked about him but never to him. Se-yeon pulled Ji-woo aside, away from the kitchen, but Amanda heard every word. The penthouse wasn't that big, and Se-yeon's voice carried. "Fire her. Today. This is unseemly, inappropriate. What will people think? Your son cooking with the help like some common child? He needs proper care, Korean care. Someone who understands our culture, our values, our way of raising children." Ji-woo's jaw tightened. Amanda could see it even from the kitchen, could see the muscle jumping in his cheek, the way his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Min-jun hasn't spoken in 3 months," he said. His voice was low, controlled. But Amanda heard the rage underneath. 3 months, mother. And in 2 weeks with Amanda, he's eating again, he's sleeping through the night, he's almost smiling. I'm not firing her. Se-yeon's eyes went cold. Then I'll take Min-jun, raise him myself in Busan, away from this circus.
Clearly, you're not capable of making proper decisions for him. You're too emotional, too weak, too influenced by your grief. The boy needs structure, discipline, a firm hand. Ji-woo's voice dropped to something dangerous, something Amanda had never heard before. You won't touch my son. Se-yeon stared at him. For a long moment, the penthouse was completely silent. Then she turned, walked to the door. Her heels clicked on marble, sharp, angry, final. At the threshold, she looked back. You're making a mistake. This will end badly. And when it does, don't come crying to me. The door slammed. The sound echoed through the penthouse, through the kitchen, through Min-jun's chest. He flinched. His hands started shaking. The measuring cup clattered to the counter. Amanda reached for him, but he pulled away, ran to his room, slammed that door too. And the silence came back, heavier than before. Ji-woo stood in the hallway, his shoulders slumped, his head bowed. Amanda approached carefully. "Mr. Yul," she started. He looked up. His eyes were wet. "I'm sorry. You shouldn't have heard that." Amanda shook her head. "It's okay. I've heard worse. But he's not okay. Your son. He's scared." He nodded, wiped his eyes. "I know. He thinks I'll send you away, like I sent all the others away when they couldn't help. Like everyone in his life leaves, dies, disappears." Amanda looked toward Min-jun's closed door. "Then we show him different. We show him people can stay. We show him fighting for someone means not giving up when it's hard." That evening, Ji-woo sat outside Min-jun's door. Amanda sat beside him. They didn't try to go in, didn't force interaction, just sat, present, if Min-jun needed them. Through the door they could hear soft crying, the kind Min-jun tried to hide, the kind he'd been holding in for 6 months. "Let him cry," Amanda whispered. "He needs to. It's healthy." Ji-woo looked at her. "How do you know so much about this? About grief? About healing?"
Amanda was quiet for a long moment. "Because I lived it. When my mother died, I thought I'd died too. Thought the grief would kill me. Thought I'd never be okay again. My grandmother let me feel all of it. Didn't try to rush me through it. Didn't tell me to be strong or get over it or think positive. She just loved me through it, fed me, sang to me, sat with me. And slowly, so slowly, I found my way back." Ji-woo absorbed this. "I haven't been doing that. For Min-jun. I've been running, hiding at work, avoiding him because seeing him hurts too much. Because I feel guilty every time I look at him." Amanda nodded. "Guilt is grief's companion. They walk together. But Min-jun doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be present." The next morning, Min-jun's door opened. He stood there, eyes swollen from crying, face pale. He looked at Amanda, then at his father. In a voice barely above a whisper, he spoke his first Korean words in 3 months. "Don't let grandmother take me. Please." Ji-woo pulled him close. "Never. I'll never let that happen. I promise." Min-jun clung to him, started crying again. But this time Ji-woo didn't try to stop it, didn't try to fix it, just held his son and let him break, let him grieve, let him be 6 years old and scared and sad instead of forcing him to be strong. Amanda watched them, her own eyes wet. This was healing, messy, painful, real, not the neat, contained, manageable kind, but the true kind, the kind that actually worked. Week 3 brought another crisis. Min-jun had to return to school. He'd been absent since his mother's death, 6 months. The school had been patient, sympathetic, but they needed him back. Education waited for no one. not even grieving children. Ji-woo was terrified. What if the pressure broke Min-jun again? What if the other children asked questions? What if the teachers pushed too hard? What if everything they'd built came crashing down? Amanda had an idea. She sat with Min-jun the night before his first day back. They cooked together, plantains and rice, comfort food. While they cooked, she taught him phrases, simple Igbo words. No, hello. Dalu, thank you. Ahuruma ya nwanya, I love it. Words that felt safe because they weren't connected to before, to trauma, to loss. Words that were just his secret language with Amanda. She explained it to him gently. If school feels too hard, if people ask questions you don't want to answer, if Korean feels like too much, you can use these words. In your head, out loud, whatever you need, they're yours, your safe place. Min-jun listened, nodded. He understood. The first day back was brutal. Min-jun came home with a note from the teacher. He won't speak, won't participate, sits at his desk staring out the window. The other children are starting to notice. Some are asking questions. Some are calling him weird, strange, broken. We're trying to protect him, but we can't force the other children to understand what they're too young to comprehend. Ji-woo read the note, felt the familiar helplessness crash over him. All the progress, all the hope, and it meant nothing outside these walls. But Amanda wasn't discouraged. She sat with Min-jun that evening. They cooked. She hummed. He stirred. And slowly, so slowly, he started humming too. Not words yet, but sound. Beautiful, broken sound that meant he was still trying, still fighting, still choosing to be present, even when it hurt. Day 3 of school broke the worst moment. Min-jun came home with a black eye. Ji-woo saw it immediately, dropped to his knees in front of his son. What happened? Who did this? Min-jun's lip trembled, but he didn't speak, didn't explain, just stood there with tears running down his face and a bruise blooming purple across his cheek. Ji-woo called the school, demanded answers. The teacher explained haltingly. Some older boys, 5th graders, they'd been teasing Min-jun, calling him mute, dummy, freak. Min-jun hadn't responded, hadn't defended himself, so they had pushed him, and when he still didn't react, one of them had hit him. We're addressing it, the teacher promised. The boys are being punished, but Mr. Yul, your son needs to learn to defend himself, to speak up, to not be such an easy target. Ji-woo hung up, rage and helplessness warring in his chest. His son was being bullied, hurt, and he didn't know how to protect him, couldn't be at school with him, couldn't fight his battles. Amanda found him in his office, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. "Mr. Yul," she said gently. He looked up. "They hurt him. They hurt my son, and I wasn't there. Couldn't protect him." Amanda knelt beside him. "You can't protect him from everything, from grief or loss or pain or cruelty. But you can teach him he's not alone, that coming home means safety, that here, in this house, he's loved exactly as he is, silent or speaking, hurt or whole. He's enough." That evening, the 3 of them sat together. Ji-woo, Amanda, Min-jun. They didn't cook, didn't talk, just sat. Ji-woo held an ice pack to his son's eye. Amanda held Min-jun's hand, and Min-jun cried. Deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere ancient and wounded. He cried for his mother, for the accident, for the silence, for the bullies, for being different, for being broken,
for being too much and not enough all at once. And when he was done crying, when there were no tears left, he looked at his father. In a voice raw from sobbing, he spoke. "I wish Oma was here. She'd know what to do." Ji-woo's breath caught. "I wish she was here too, every single day. But we have each other, and we have Amanda, and we're going to be okay. Eventually." Min-jun looked at Amanda. "Promise you won't leave?" She squeezed his hand. "I promise." But promises, they learned, were complicated things. Week 4 brought the crisis that almost broke everything. Amanda's work visa was expiring. The agency called on a Wednesday. They were sorry, so sorry, but company policy was clear. International workers rotated every 6 months. Amanda had been in Korea for 2 years through various agencies, but this particular agency couldn't renew. Insurance liability, labor law technicalities, bureaucratic nonsense that added up to one simple truth. She had 30 days, then she'd have to leave. Go back to Lagos, back to her grandmother, away from this boy who'd become like her own, away from this family that felt more like home than anywhere else. She didn't tell them at first, couldn't find the words, kept working, kept cooking, kept humming, kept pretending everything was fine. But the weight of it pressed on her, made her chest tight, made her hands shake when she chopped vegetables, made her voice crack when she sang. Min-jun noticed. Children always noticed. He watched her more carefully, saw the sadness she tried to hide, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore, the way she stood at the window sometimes, staring out at Seoul like she was memorizing it, like she was saying goodbye. One night he couldn't sleep, got up for water, heard soft crying from Amanda's small room off the kitchen. He stood outside her door, listening. The sound broke his heart, made him think of his mother, of loss, of people leaving. He pushed the door open. Amanda looked up, tried to smile, tried to hide the tears, but Min-jun saw everything. He crossed to her, put his small hand on her arm, and spoke in Korean. Clear, certain. "Don't leave." The first Korean words at school, the first time using his voice to ask for what he needed. "Don't leave me too." Amanda pulled him close. "I don't want to." Her voice broke. "I don't want to." But Min-jun had heard those words before, from his mother, the morning of the accident. "I don't want to go to this meeting, but I have to." Those were the last words Hae-jin said to him. "I don't want to go, but I have to." And then she was gone. Forever. Min-jun pulled away from Amanda. His face shut down. The walls went back up, faster than before, higher than before. He walked back to his room, closed the door, locked it, and didn't come out the next morning, or the morning after that, or the one after that. The silence was back, worse than before, because now it came with betrayal, with the confirmation that everyone leaves, everyone dies, everyone abandons him, even the people who promised to stay. He stopped eating again, stopped crying, stopped everything, just lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, Hae-jin's picture clutched to his chest, choosing absence over presence, choosing numbness over pain, choosing to disappear before anyone else could leave him. Ji-woo found out about the visa from Mrs. Park. She'd overheard Amanda on the phone with the agency, pleading, explaining about Min-jun, about the progress, about how fragile everything still was. The agency didn't care. Policy was policy. Business was business. Compassion didn't factor into labor law.
Ji-woo stood outside Min-jun's locked door, listening to his son not eating, not speaking, not living, and felt rage unlike anything he'd ever experienced. not at Amanda, not at his son, at a system that put paperwork over people, that valued policy over a child's healing, that was willing to destroy a family because of visa technicalities. He made calls to lawyers, to government officials, to business partners who owed him favors, to anyone with influence or power or connections. He wasn't letting her go, couldn't let her go, not just for Min-jun, for himself too. Because somewhere in the last month, watching her heal his son, he'd realized she was healing him too, teaching him that grief didn't have to be carried alone, that love could grow even in the darkest soil, that choosing to show up every day, even when everything hurt, was the bravest thing a person could do. It took 2 weeks of fighting, 2 weeks of Min-jun locked in his room, 2 weeks of Amanda cooking food nobody ate, 2 weeks of Ji-woo barely sleeping, working every connection he had, pulling strings, calling in favors, doing everything his money and power could accomplish. He tried everything. Work visa sponsorship, humanitarian appeals, education visa, tourist visa extension, every legal avenue. They all hit dead ends. Immigration law was clear. Without proper sponsorship, Amanda had to leave. And his company couldn't sponsor her. She wasn't educated enough, didn't have the right qualifications, wasn't the right kind of worker. The system wasn't designed for maids, for helpers, for the people who actually saved lives through presence and patience instead of degrees and credentials. Finally, late one night, his lawyer called. There was one way, one legal path that would let Amanda stay permanently, that would bypass every visa issue, every agency policy, every bureaucratic barrier. Marriage. If Amanda married a Korean citizen, she could stay. No questions, no policies, no expiration date. Ji-woo sat in the dark, let the words settle. Marriage. Not for love, not for romance, for immigration, for survival, for keeping a family that had started to form in the cracks of grief. It felt wrong, transactional, like using her. But what was the alternative? Let her go? Let Min-jun break again? Let their fragile healing shatter? He stood outside her door that evening. His hand shook as he knocked. Amanda answered, eyes red from 2 weeks of crying, face drawn from 2 weeks of watching Min-jun fade. She looked at him, saw something in his face, waited. Will you marry me? The words came out raw, desperate, nothing like a proposal should be. No romance, no flowers, no bended knee. Just desperation and immigration law, and 2 broken people trying to save a child. I know this isn't... Ji-woo started, his voice cracked. I know this isn't how it's supposed to happen. I know you deserve better. But it's the only way. The only legal way to keep you here. To keep you with Min-jun. To keep our family from breaking again. Amanda stared at him. She'd imagined marriage before, with love and romance and choice, not with visas and desperation, and a man she barely knew. But she thought about Min-jun, about his locked door, about his silence, about watching him choose to disappear rather than feel abandonment again. And she thought about her own childhood, about what her grandmother had sacrificed to save her, about how love wasn't always romantic. Sometimes it was just choosing to stay, choosing to show up, choosing someone else's healing over your own comfort. Yes, just yes, because she understood. This wasn't about romance. Not yet. Maybe not ever. This was about survival. About keeping a traumatized child from drowning. About choosing presence over policy. About believing that families could form in unconventional ways. That love could grow from shared grief instead of shared joy. That sometimes the right choice looked nothing like you expected. They married 3 days later. Civil ceremony at the district office.
No guests, no flowers, no celebration. Just documents and signatures and stamps that made it legal, that gave Amanda the right to stay, the freedom to keep helping Min-jun heal, the security of knowing she couldn't be forced to leave. They came home as husband and wife, legal strangers bound by paperwork and desperation. Min-jun still didn't know, was still locked in his room, still choosing absence. They stood outside his door that evening. Ji-woo knocked. No answer. They went in anyway. Found him on his bed, face buried in his mother's pillow, the one that still held a faint trace of her perfume. Ji-woo sat on one side, Amanda on the other. Min-jun didn't look up, didn't acknowledge them, just stayed buried, drowning. "I'm not leaving," Amanda said softly. In Igbo first, then Korean. "I'm staying." Min-jun didn't move. She tried again. "I'm staying forever. I promise." Still nothing. Ji-woo spoke, his voice gentle. "Amanda and I got married. She's staying. She's family now. Legally. Permanently. Nobody can make her leave." Silence. Long. Heavy. Suffocating. Then Min-jun's voice, muffled. Broken. "Promise?" Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "I promise. Your appa made sure of it." Min-jun lifted his head slowly, looked at her, then at his father. His face was swollen, his eyes red, his cheeks hollow from 2 weeks of barely eating. "Really?" "Really," Ji-woo said, his own voice thick. "I promise too. We both promise. We're not leaving you. Either of us. We're staying right here." Min-jun stared at them, testing, searching their faces for lies, for cracks, for the betrayal he expected. But he saw only truth, only determination, only love that was messy and complicated, but real. He launched himself at Amanda, wrapped his thin arms around her and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that had been building for 6 months, for 3 months of silence, for 2 weeks of locked doors, for a lifetime of loss compressed into 6 years. He sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and between sobs words came tumbling out. "I miss Oma. I miss her so much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I lived and she didn't. I'm sorry I was in the car. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. I'm sorry." Amanda held him tight, rocked him like her grandmother had rocked her. "It's not your fault, baby. None of this is your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Living isn't wrong. Missing her isn't wrong. Being sad isn't wrong. It's all okay. I've got you. We've got you." Ji-woo wrapped his arms around both of them, his son, his wife, this family that was broken and healing and broken and healing all at once, held together by grief and paperwork and desperate love. They sat like that for hours, crying together, speaking together, grieving together for the first time. No more hiding, no more running, just presence, just truth, just choosing each other even when it hurt. The healing wasn't instant after that. Grief doesn't work that way. Trauma doesn't disappear because of a wedding certificate. But Min-jun started talking again, slowly, carefully, testing if his words would bring more pain. They didn't. He started going back to school, still got teased sometimes, still had hard days, but he had Igbo words now, secret words that were just his, words that felt safe when Korean felt like too much. He started making friends, slowly, other quiet kids, other children who understood being different. He'd come home and tell Amanda about them, about the girl who also lost her mother,
about the boy who stuttered and knew what it was like when words were hard, about finding people who got it without explanation. Ji-woo started coming home earlier, started eating dinner with them, started being present instead of hiding at work. He'd watch Min-jun and Amanda cook together, their easy rhythm, their shared language, their understanding that needed no words, and he'd feel something shift in his chest, something that felt like healing, like hope, like maybe they could all survive this. 3 months after the wedding, Ji-woo realized something. He'd married Amanda for a visa, for immigration, for keeping her here, but somewhere along the way, in the shared meals and midnight conversations and watching her love his son, he'd fallen in love with her for real. Not the convenient kind, not the grateful kind, the real kind. The kind that made his heart race when she laughed, the kind that made him want to be better, the kind that felt like coming home. He didn't know if she felt the same. Their marriage was still a contract, still transactional, still based on survival instead of romance, but he wanted to try, wanted to do this right, wanted to give her the choice she hadn't had before. 6 months after the civil ceremony, Ji-woo took Amanda to a jewelry store, left Min-jun with Mrs. Park, told Amanda they needed to run errands. She followed him through Seoul's shopping district, confused but trusting. He stopped in front of a jewelry store, looked at her. "We did this backwards," he said. "Marriage first, questions later. I want to do this part right." He got down on one knee, right there on the street. People stopped, stared, whispered. He didn't care. "Will you marry me? Not on paper, not for immigration, not because of Min-jun, but for real. Because I love you. Not because you saved my son, though you did. Not because you stayed, though you did, but because you're you. Because you taught us how to grieve and live at the same time. Because you brought light back. Because every day with you feels like a gift. Will you marry me?" Amanda was crying, laughing, both. People were watching, but she didn't care either. "Yes." She pulled him to his feet. "Yes, I'll marry you again, for real this time, because I love you, too. Didn't plan to, didn't expect to, but I do." They had the second wedding 6 months later. Small church. Mrs. Park crying through the whole ceremony. Amanda's grandmother flew in from Lagos, tiny, strong. She hugged Ji-woo, whispered in his ear, "Thank you for loving my granddaughter, for choosing her." Ji-woo hugged her back. "Thank you for raising her, for teaching her how to heal, for making her who she is." Min-jun was the ring bearer. He'd written a poem, practiced for weeks, was nervous but determined. When the time came, he stood at the front of the church, looked at all the faces, took a deep breath, and read, in Korean first, then Igbo, switching between languages like switching between worlds.
The poem was about losing his first mother, about finding his second, about how family isn't just blood, it's choice, it's showing up, it's staying when it's hard, it's love that doesn't quit even when everything hurts. His voice only broke once, when he called Amanda Oma for the first time. Not replacement, not forgetting Hae-jin, just acknowledging that hearts can hold more than one mother, more than one love, more than one truth. Amanda broke too, covered her mouth, sobbed. Ji-woo held her hand, held Min-jun's hand, connected them all. This family, this beautiful, broken, healed by choosing each other family. A year after Amanda first arrived, Min-jun had his 7th birthday party. The penthouse was full. Friends from school, Mrs. Park's family, people from Amanda's church in Itaewon, his grandmother from Lagos, telling stories in Igbo that made everyone laugh, even though most didn't understand the words. Joy, laughter, life. Min-jun ran through the crowd, talking, laughing, alive in ways he hadn't been in so long. Ji-woo watched him, watched Amanda chasing after him with cake, watched this impossible life they built from grief and visas and desperate choices, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just gratitude, not just relief, but actual happiness. The kind that could coexist with loss. The kind that honored the past while embracing the future. That evening, after everyone left, after Min-jun was asleep, Ji-woo and Amanda sat on the balcony. Seoul spread out below them. Millions of lights, millions of lives, millions of griefs being carried in the dark. "How did you know?" Ji-woo asked. "That first day, how did you know you could reach him?" Amanda was quiet for a moment. "I didn't. I just knew what worked for me when I was his age, when I couldn't speak. My grandmother didn't force me, didn't fix me, just sat with me, fed me, sang to me, let me exist in my pain until I was ready to exist outside it. I thought maybe Min-jun needed the same thing. Space, patience, someone who understood that silence isn't empty, it's full. Full of everything you can't say, everything you can't bear to make real by speaking out loud." Ji-woo took her hand. "You gave me my son back." She shook her head. "He was never gone, just lost. We all were. We just needed to find each other. Needed someone to show us it was okay to be lost, okay to be broken, okay to need help. Your culture doesn't always allow that. Doesn't always make space for weakness or need or asking for support. But healing requires all of those things." They sat there as night deepened. Two people who'd lost everything and found each other in the aftermath. A Korean billionaire who learned that money couldn't buy healing, but presence could. A Nigerian woman who learned that her pain could become someone else's medicine. And a boy who learned that speaking was hard, but silence was harder. That grief was heavy, but love was stronger. That his mother was gone, but he could still choose to stay. Still choose to live. Still choose to let people in. 3 months of silence, broken by jollof rice and Igbo lullabies, and a woman who understood that sometimes the impossible isn't making someone speak. The impossible is loving them through the silence, sitting with them in the dark, waiting patiently while they find their voice again. Not fixing, just being, just staying, just showing up every single day until the darkness lifts and light finds its way back in. Min-jun spoke now, laughed now, lived now, but he still had Amanda's first plantain preserved in a box in his room, dried and kept safe. A reminder of the day he chose to try, the day he chose to let someone in, the day he took the first small step back toward living. And every Sunday morning, they still cooked together. Still blended cultures and flavors and languages into something uniquely theirs. Still honored the past while building the future. Still chose, every day, to be a family. Maybe you're watching this because you know that silence, that grief that steals your voice, that pain that makes you want to disappear. Maybe you've tried everything and nothing works. Maybe you've given up hope. Don't. Because healing comes, not from experts or money or forcing it, but from someone who sits with you in the dark, someone who doesn't try to fix you, just loves you, waits for you, believes you'll find your voice again even when you don't believe it yourself. Min-jun found his voice. Ji-woo found his heart. Amanda found her family. 3 broken pieces that fit together in ways that made them whole.
Thank you for watching till the end. This means everything to me. I remain Onyx, aka K Afro Tales, and I say stay glued for more beautiful stories. Check out more of our stories on our channel page. May you be blessed, and once again, thank you for watching.